webinar, Building an Accelerated E2E SAP Testing Suite. Our event will start shortly, and we're glad you could join us. Next slide. This webinar today is sponsored by Vivid, Micro Focus, and Infosys. And today's moderator will be myself, Ron Franklin. I'm a principal consultant architect with Randstad Technologies. I'm also a leader of the SIG leader for Vivid in the DevOps and the APM SIGs. And I'm glad that you could be here today. Our speakers today will be Puneet Chordia. He is the Practice Engagement Manager for SAP Testing at Infosys and has over 14 years experience. Noy Bar, Director of Product Management, Alliance Strategy, ADM from Micro Focus, with over 13 years of customer success experience, will be the other speaker. Next slide. So just a couple things of housekeeping. This is a live session and is being recorded. All recordings are available to all Vivid members. So please type, if you have a question, please type that question in the questions pane so that we can respond to it during the presentation. Just like to let you know on your webinar control panel that you'll see over here to the right, you can toggle the view window between the full screen and window modes. Please type your questions down in that pane if you have any questions for any of our speakers. Next slide. And Puneet, I'm going to turn this over to you now.
Thank you very much. I hope you're all able to see my screen.
Not yet. There we go.
Lovely. Hey everyone. Thanks for joining in. Today we are gonna talk to you in our partnership with Micro Focus. How we are helping customers on accelerating their SAP S/4HANA transformation journey by having the end-to-end testing solution, bringing in the right acceleration that we are bringing through some of the accelerators as well as the Micro Focus toolchain across the life cycle of testing. And I'd like Noy, if you can just quickly brief up on how our partnership is all about and what the whole solution and what we are trying to build together.
Of course, thank you for that, Puneet. If we can just move to the next slide. Great, thank you. So hi everybody, thank you for joining us. We're very excited to be here with you today and share with you the wonderful partnership we have between Micro Focus and Infosys. And today we are going to focus on SAP. Just before we start that, I wanted to give you a bit of a context. So first of all, we've been partners since 2009, so that's a lot of years now and a lot of experience in so many fields. We have a very unique partnership in many aspects. So first of all, having the really top-notch partnership and collaboration and cooperation between the companies, making sure that both companies embrace innovation from the first class and for the first day. This is very, very critical. Oops, I'm sorry, my screen just glitched. Another aspect that I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of is that Infosys actually got a couple of awards from Micro Focus for their innovation and for their delivery. And our partnership goes in so many fields. And Puneet, if you can just click on the next slide, then we're going to give you a little snippet of the various areas of our partnership, coming all the way from the mainframe modernization, application delivery, IT and operation management, and of course, application delivery management, which we're going to focus on today. Just on the next slide. Wonderful. So just to give a tiny bit of context before Puneet will dig down into the big topics, when we're talking about SAP challenges, there are mainly three challenges that we're seeing out in the field. There are the business challenges, and Puneet, if you can click the button just to make sure that the points are loading, thank you. First of all, from a business challenges standpoint, we're seeing many aspects such as unique requirements requiring to be implemented, skill gaps, business continuity, and quality and security. Well, when we move on to the technical challenges, we're finding some unique challenges in that field as well when it comes to SAP, being regular environment, unique technologies that are being part of it, multifaceted environment and development methodologies. all of those make it very challenging, not only to deliver the business needs of SAP, but also on how to deliver it. And last but not least, when we're talking about modernization challenges, this is kind of the problem of the new world, even though it's now not so longer new, but something we need to give a special attention to of how does modernization influence the SAP environment, an environment that usually we're used to having with us for so long, and needing to think about aspects such as omitting critical functionality. What do we want to take with us? Performance and security, broken integrations, late delivery, and of course, there might be other aspects that you cannot see on this slide today, but that are very, very critical. So when we're looking at these challenges together with the partnership with Infosys, Puneet is actually going to walk you through today on the Infosys unique approach on how to handle SAP and SAP automation. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Puneet.
Hey, thanks, Noy, for bringing up the right kind of challenges around the business side of the world, the technical challenges, as well as the overall modernization challenges. The road and the transformation journey to S4HANA comes up with quite few hurdles. And we consider this is quite a sprint that everyone has to run through. And during the whole course of S4HANA, there are a lot of opportunities where there are points around how do we go for, is it a green field, is it a brown field, it's a system conversion. How do you want to take this whole journey towards? How I'm going to make sure my business is adopting to the new way of working with S4HANA, where there are new aspects of the Fiori screens coming into play, the ease of use of workflow coming into play, the handheld and the mobility devices, how those are being changing the way how SAP used to work from the previous ECC world. And apart from that, it also comes with a new way of working. How do we set up the model company? So these are some of the challenges that we typically see as a part of the S4HANA journey. And along with that, there are a lot of technical and testing challenges that we associate with. And today we are going to talk about a few of the challenges and how we are going to address during the course of the journey. Moving on, the big question everyone should have in their mind is, are we really prepared to have sufficiently manage and deliver a successful S4HANA transformation program and ensure the right kind of quality is being done? So to do that, as I mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities for the customer to move. So the questions from a testing environment as a test manager or as an SAP program manager, or actually as a tester, the questions which comes into mind are predominantly around, do I have the right test strategy to make sure my S4HANA journey is better? How do I going to handle my template design? And how I'm going to make sure that I have a more successful and an accelerated rollout journey, when to start automation. So these are some of the questions which predominantly come during the course of the understanding that how the testing should form up for overall an S4HANA program. The other important aspects of S4HANA is there are not only the functional challenges in the functional testing, there are a lot of non-functional testing associated with here. And we need to address all those as a part of it. So the importance is, are you really prepared for this journey? How Infosys and Micro Focus in our joint partnership and the solution that we have built are helping customers in enabling to have a jump start in their S4HANA journey. I'm going to touch upon a few of the key points with a deep dive later in the few slides around what these solutions look like and how this could really benefit any organization and the customer. The first important point of a jump start is because S4HANA comes also with more of config-oriented work, where there is a lot of reusable aspects coming from the SAP baseline and the best practices. What we have created with our wide experience of bringing in the SAP domain and the industry knowledge, we have created the baseline version and the SAP Vanilla scenarios across all the SAP S4HANA modules, including some of the other SAP ecosystem modules, because for any S4HANA journey, there will be modules like SuccessFactors, CRM, and others, which will also play a quite an important role during the transformation journey. So we have pre-built test assets, both at the manual side of the world, which can be used directly, and we can, by click of a button, we can import that into an ALM of Thane or the actual ALM and start the journey. These comes with a very detailed level test steps, validation, expected results, and this comes from the background of the SAP domain experts who have created this from their experience and validated against the SAP baseline and the L4 best practices. The other important thing is the automation aspect. Our framework for automation is quite reusable, and also the important part of the framework for automation is it's very plug and play. we can reuse the same framework across different customers and the same kind of test repository which we have built on the SAP Vanilla. When I meant SAP Vanilla is basically the standard functionality which is out of box coming from the SAP S/4HANA system. And then every customer has their own customization, the local flavor, the taxation, as well as a few changes which they have from their business processes. Those are all called as localized processes. But for the vanilla scenarios, these pre-built assets could directly be used and help in the overall journey. Along with that, we also have some of the tools and accelerators which I'm going to talk about. But this is how we are also helping our customers, that how they can jumpstart the journey. And we also have a proven model that how a template and rollout could actually adopt the acceleration during the whole course of the journey, plus bring in the lifecycle test automation. And what I meant by test automation is not pure play the way we understand a regression test automation or a test execution automation. We're talking about at every phase in a testing lifecycle, what are the processes and the steps that you can automate, whether it is designing the test cases from the requirement, building using the pre-built assets and using the generating the data for your test data requirement during the course of the execution, or running the automated scripts in a complete unattended fashion, integrating with the different CI/CD and DevOps tool chain with which you want to do it, and eventually also have an automated report format which can be published to a wider audience to know the current status. So we have tried to automate at every lifecycle stages using some of the tools and accelerators, working with the Micro Focus tool chain like ALM, Octane, UFT, LoadRunner. Okay. Moving on, how this acceleration is important. So currently we have 2000 plus SAP vanilla scripts which are being written in a very detailed level across the modules as well as pre-automated. I think this brings a big change for any customer who are adopting a journey, because these are reusable. Every customer has to think through that how they have to start the whole journey of automation. And this acceleration comes right at the design of the template. So for any S/4HANA customers, whether they are going from away in a greenfield operations or into a brownfield view, they will be able to utilize the existing assets as is and then start customizing on top of it based on their various business processes and the custom flavors. But the important part is we are providing that reusable assets to accelerate the journey. Moving on, how do we overcome the various hurdles and the challenges during the whole delivery race? I think this is quite critical, and I'm pretty sure that you also have your own set of challenges during an SAP S/4HANA or an SAP testing project, which are predominantly hanging around what could be my automation maturity, how soon I can achieve a higher level of automation, what are the challenges also around the test data. And I think pretty much the audience today will also relate to their regular day-to-day job. The test data is also one of the important aspects in an SAP journey. And looking at the classification of a tester that may not have the right exposure of the SAP functional module or to find the right test data every time. And there is a lot of dependency aspect that we have seen in the testing of the SAP ecosystem as well as the programs. What we have done in conjunction with sitting around with various SAP consultants, we have created a utility which goes into the SAP systems, finds out the test data automatically for various kind of scenario. Just to give you an example, if I have to create a sales order, I need a right kind of sales org, I need right kind of company code and stuff, which is just my input parameters. But I also have a lot of conditions. I want to create a sales order with rebate condition. My pre-built queries are able to find the right amount of test data by going into the system and finding the data and pulling it into a particular script. Again, this is very well integrated with the Micro Focus ALM as well as UFT, where this query fires and get the whole data in an Excel sheet, which is again imported directly into ALM for the manual run or in the automation script using in the UFT. The other aspect that we have also done is, this is not about just finding the data which is available in the system. We have also created pre-built automated scripts to make sure the right test data is created in the system as a prerequisite before you start your overall execution. And this also helps in making sure that you generate the test data right during the course of the execution and do not wait and rely on the other sources to have the right data. In our experience, we have seen 30% of the major defects or the issues are predominantly in the entire integration testing or user acceptance testing, or even in production. It's predominantly around the test data. And this is something how we are able to help the customer as well as reduce the dependency on business so that they can focus on their daily jobs rather than supporting the entire testing process by bringing in the right test data. I think I also want to poke everyone's brain, and today we have a polling question specifically around, what are the challenges that you see in your SAP testing projects, and I would like every one of you to start submitting your response based on your experience of what are the challenges that you feel in this particular area.
So everyone, if you can see the poll questions here, please respond by answering one of these 4 questions. Which of the below challenges impacts your SAP testing projects the most? Is it achieving higher levels of test automation, test data availability, inadequate test coverage, skilled SAP testers and consultants? So we're going to take a couple minutes here to let everyone answer those questions, and then we'll just display the poll results afterwards. And thank you.
Thanks, Juan.
Ron, can you share the results, please?
So it looks like here that we have 33% of people have said that that they'd like to see achieving higher levels of test automation. We have very close there. Second is 31% saying test data availability. 19% answered inadequate test coverage, and 17% answered skilled SAP testers and consultants. So that looks like, Puneet, that's a lot of things to consider there.
Oh yes, I think there are different audience, and they bring their different perspective of what they really face in their day-to-day life in the various SAP projects which they handle, and they're sharing their own experience. So thanks everyone for sharing those experiences, and I think it resonates well with what we also think where the focus areas for any testing should be: bringing higher level of automation, ensuring the test data issues are handled quite well, as well as how the expertise of SAP skill set. So I will just take some of the experience from what you have shared in the poll and move to the next one, which typically talks about some of the non-functional elements are quite important in the journey. The reason being, in an SAP HANA program, you might actually be going into a cloud version or an on-prem system. Predominantly, the way of working as well as the coming of the Fiori screen, the other aspects also of non-functional becomes quite important. One being performance testing. Are your systems ready to meet the kind of baseline as well as the kind of expectation from a business with the right kind of response time for all the critical business processes? So this becomes important, though we have seen that the whole ecosystem of cloud is all to ensure that you have a better performance, better speed, and a good resilient system. But there are other aspects that we have also seen from the experience of different projects that we have been working on in S/4HANA. The performance is actually dropping because the way the whole integration aspects is into play. Hence, we believe that using Load Runner, Micro Focus Load Runner, as well as some of the NFR questionnaire that we have created specifically for an SAP customer, which can help them create a view that what should be the kind of workload model they do. What is the strategy for doing a non-functional requirement assessment for them? So we have some of these pre-built questionnaires as well as tool to help them work along with the architects to do that. And this has ensured a lot of customers to have a very successful performance test as well as security test, which we have been able to do. And this is important considering the way that we are, as a business is expecting that how your whole S/4HANA transformation journey should also increase your productivity gains. So this becomes quite evident for us. So moving on, the other aspect is how do you really ensure that your program health is sound and secure? The things which are going on have a good transparent view as a program manager or as a test manager and have a real-time monitoring. I'm pretty sure most of you already have worked on Micro Focus ALM as well as Octane, and the dashboards are already pre-built and available. What we have done is within the SAP ecosystem, we have created custom dashboard, which can be again a plug and play on the Micro Focus ALM, directly getting the fetch of the whatever is happening on requirement, defects, the test execution status, how the whole triage goes, how's the progress against the planned versus actuals. And these are pre-populated into a particular graph. Again, this is like a utility which can be plugged into any customer environment to make sure they get the right kind of insight for any different levels of view. we have three different levels of view. One is purely an operational view, which is for day-to-day reporting. The second view is more of tactical view, which is done at a weekly level. Let's say you have a program level meeting where you're discussing. For those, we have that view. And the third level is at a release level, where you can actually see across the releases how your entire program journey is happening and how different projects are running together. So this also helps in making sure that we have a very transparent and real-time reporting what happens in your Micro Focus ALM systems across requirements, defects, test status. Diligent in passing the baton for risk coverage and team collaboration. I'm pretty sure that you all want to have a better risk coverage as well as a team collaboration. From a collaboration point of view, most of the collaboration works very seamless across the different Micro Focus tools as well. And important point is, how do we do the risk coverage analysis? So here we also use some of our risk-based testing approach. Along with it, we have our tool which helps us in also doing a risk assessment, that what will break in the system because of X amount of changes which are going in. We also analyze the kind of transport, the kind of changes which goes into a detailed level at an SAP objects and tell us what is going to break in the system. So this is quite important, and in any SAP project, this becomes quite evident, because when you know what are the kind of things which are going in and you know what to test. So this helps you in doing more of an impact-based testing. And we again use a Pareto rule to make sure that all the key problems that we have seen are coming, 80% of the problems are predominantly coming by 20% of the real issues. And we try and focus more on those areas so that we have a much better quality covered during the whole course of the execution. So here we use our risk-based testing tool, which gives us a complete impact analysis in our SAP testing. Along with it, we also derive a risk-based testing approach and set up that whole process across requirement and test cases in Micro Focus ALM. This is quite exciting for us, and just to bring a view, and I also like that view in the poll where you mentioned that the right kind of SAP skills. What we also believe is that unless you have the right ingredients for a recipe as a program fitness, this is quite important for you to make sure how your health of the whole program is going to be very good. So you need to make sure that the ingredients that you're going to eat are quite healthy. So what we bring to here is the right test mix. And when we say the test mix is all about, we bring the SAP testers who comes with a background of SAP modules plus an expertise on tooling as well as testing. So this is called as a techno-functional testers, and that helps in bridging the gap between a pure play tester and a pure play SAP consultant. An SAP consultant may not bring the right experience of how to break the system, or what are the kind of tests that actually will have an impact. How do I bring in the automation of it? Whereas a tester, pure play tester, may not have the experience of what are the nuances of an SAP module. How do I ensure my finance process is the posting is going right across the various repos as well as tables. So this is where we have a center of excellence which brings all the SAP techno-functional testers together with the right experience of a different SAP modules and a very strong testing and the automation experience. And the automation experience is also important because the same testers are also able to utilize the automation during the course of it, build new automation scripts by their own way of working. So that makes sure that there is a less dependency of having automation only with the support of different functional teams. They themselves are self-sufficient to do it. So this is what we believe is also a right recipe for a program success. Now, completing milestones with quality assurance and deployment, I think this is something we all want to achieve, and a few of the success stories that we have across the, let's say, one of the global beverage maker, we have been able to achieve almost 75% automation across their template and have used the same automation during the entire rollout by saving almost 30% of the test efforts during the rollouts for them. The other important aspect in that whole process was we did not have any critical defects or incidents in the production during the course of whole testing. So that's one of the important things that to make sure. So all these aspects of improving your automation, improving your test coverage, making sure your risk is covered, all the aspects of bringing the right test data, this has helped in making sure that all these milestones as well as the assurance is being applied to various kind of SAP programs. Moving on. So I just want to give a very high level view of what this solution is all about. We talked about the overall solution, and this is an overview of the solution we talk about. Prepare, explore, realize, deploy, and run. I'm pretty sure most of the people who will relate well with their own experience of how the whole S4HANA journey will be broken down into different phases of prepare, explore, realize, deploy, and run. And what we have done is we have associated the testing phases, and under that, what you see as the Micro Focus tools and Infosys tools. Both these tools work very strongly in an end-to-end fashion, so that you start during the whole course of your manual creation, where there's a process discovery, where you can use the pre-built reusable assets, as I mentioned, pull them into an ALM lifecycle so that you have ALM and Octane and start reusing those tools. Also, one of the important aspects that we also cover is the ALM best practices. And this comes with a pre-packaged workflows, pre-packaged setup, and as well as dashboard, which helps us in making sure that how you can fast track a setting of the ALM for any SAP project. The other aspect is automate build, where you start using the UFT family. So you start using the UFT or lead FT, where you do also the automation using the Infosys test automation framework. And this is the framework I was talking about. This is more of a plug and play automation framework, can be pulled into any of the organization. The other important part is it also comes with pre-built functions as well as pre-built SAP scripts. We also use service virtualization as well as the data mining solution. I already mentioned that how we create an SQI queries and pre-built assets help in making sure that our test data requirements are met very successfully, and we have very few issues during the whole course of the execution just because of test data. For performance testing as well as baselining, we pretty much use the load runner product family of Storm Runner and load runner. And in this, we also have one-touch performance test solution. And what we mean by one-touch performance test solution is we have also integrated our performance testing solution so that it can cater to the entire CI/CD and DevOps adoption for any organization. So as soon as the functional process and the testing is done, an NFR is already being triggered as soon as that process is triggered. So we have actually created a complete pipeline where the functional and non-functional tests go in parallel, so that you have a complete output during the whole kind of pipeline test. So that's important. The other aspect that we also do is batch mode testing. And here we have created a very smart utility which takes care of the issues which any automation engineers could very well relate to. That when you start an automation of a batch, the issues of the network, the issues of the SAP crashes, the machine crashes, the GUI crashes, sometimes it locks you out. And eventually when you run the batch, the whole batch is stopped during the course of it. You might start a batch of 200 test cases overnight, and next morning when you come, you find that only 5 test cases were successful because at the 6th test case, the system crashed or the network crashed or there was a blip. So how to handle those kind of situations? What we have created is we have created a night patch tool, which helps us in making sure that it runs unattended, and it also has a watcher engine which makes sure that if there is any break for any 5 minutes and the SAP is not working, it will relaunch the SAP and start the script again from the same batch. So let's say if you run a batch of 1,000 scripts in the night, next morning I'm pretty sure that you have a results of 1,000, whether pass or fail, using the automated scripts. So this has helped one of our customers in US, where we were struggling to have how do we achieve 2,000 test cases to be completed in a 7 days time frame. Earlier, it used to take almost 2 weeks to complete a regression script for 2,000 test case. And by we created this utility and we started running in batches as well, also use the machine in the off hours when people were not working. This has helped us to reduce the overall time frame to 7 days now, where we execute almost 2,800 test cases at this point of time in 7 days very successfully. And the percentage of automation is almost around 88% for the customer. Then using the impact and risk assessment, I mentioned about the risk and assessment tool, and this comes when we actually go into a complete deployment where we have successfully deployed and start the let's say the maintenance journey, as well as the new changes which comes into the picture, the enhancement, the change requests, the service tickets, and we assess what changes comes as a part of the SAP objects and does an impact analysis and making sure the test coverage is right, as well as sometimes we do over testing, and this is also to avoid that over testing, because we only test the way the real impact is, so that we have the right amount of tests to be done rather than over testing. From here, the high level of
Puneet, just if I can add a couple of words about the previous slide. Thank you. About this point, I just wanted to make two important points. So first of all, for those in the audience who are not aware, Micro Focus has a very wide set of tools that are actually supporting the SAP journey, and of course the methodology and accelerators that Infosys is offering. So if you're not aware of any of these tools, of course, feel free to reach out either to Micro Focus or to Infosys to learn more. We're happy to provide more information. What I want to mention here in addition to that is that Infosys is actually making the best of the Micro Focus tools, being able not only to choose the right tool for the right methodology, for the right project, as you can see both in the performance and actually each and every one of those points here on the screen, you can see Infosys has offering multiple tools from Micro Focus to make sure to fit the specific need of every client and a specific need of every scenario. Furthermore, Infosys is actually taking advantage of the newest innovation from Micro Focus, including agile technologies and methodologies, and of course, DevOps coming on the lifecycle and management piece. When we're talking about automation, Infosys is actually making use of UFT AI capabilities, which are relatively new in the market, but very innovative and allowing to do faster and more accurate automation testing, which, as we've seen as part of the poll, has been one of the challenges on how to reach automation, and Infosys actually is keeping an edge here by using the newest technology, as well as keeping up to speed with the newest and most updated innovation that we have on the service virtualization and performance and load testing capabilities. So as you can see across the board, actually, Infosys is making the best and the optimal use of the Micro Focus as the market-leading tools for the sake of the clients, for the sake of the specific client needs, and for the specific situation needs as well. So just wanted to add that to also reassure that the Infosys solution here is very comprehensive and really making the most out of the market-leading tools.
Thanks, Noy. And I think that's quite important as a collaboration, plus the way the whole tools ecosystem is all integrated. I think the experimentation as well as the deployment of UFT AI, which we are right now working along with Micro Focus product teams, is quite exciting because that's a complete new technology, and making sure that every customer gets benefit out of it. It's quite exciting for us to also take it to our customers and have already got some very good feedback, and customers liked it. So we're quite excited on this journey. Thanks, Noy.
And we did have a couple of questions there related to that slide as well. And so one was, so what is the typical duration to achieve 70% test automation coverage in SAP HANA program?
Excellent question. So if you ask me on an honest answer, I think predominantly if it's an SAP S/4HANA program, I think you should be able to achieve almost 40 to 50% during the course of your template build. And what I meant by during is that you start the journey of your automation once your cycle one of your functional test is successful and in a good shape. So once you have that kind of quality, you start using these kind of pre-built assets to create the journey, and you should be able to achieve somewhere around 40% of the automation during the whole process of template, and that runs through till the UAT is complete. Post that, we have seen that during the rollout, before the rollout testing starts and before the build of that is completed, you should be able to reach around 60%, and to reach 70%, we predominantly see that by the first rollout, you should be able to reach that 70% number. And the reason I'm not saying a pure play timeline is because every customer has a different way of working, of defining a template and doing a rollout. So it varies. For one customer, we were able to actually achieve 70% automation in a 9-month window. For the other customer, we were able to achieve in 7 months. The other customer also was quite exciting because in manufacturing, the whole program was running quite slow. So for that, it actually took 13 months to reach that 70%. So we have seen different variants around it, but I think it depends on how you structure your template and the rollout process. We have been able to achieve definitely 40 to 50% during the template process itself.
Okay, we had another question. It says, does your E2E solution support other SAP applications like SuccessFactors, Concur, Ariba?
Yes, absolutely. So the solution is based on the overall SAP ecosystem and supports all the SAP technologies, whether it is SAP S/4HANA, the core ERP, SAP ECC, whether you talk about the SAP SCM, HCM, SuccessFactors, Concur, Ariba, the C4HANA, the C4C landscape, Fieldglass, and all. So the whole solution is based on the entire scope of SAP ecosystem. Thank you. Any further questions, Ron, before I move?
Let's move on.
Thank you. So just to highlight the key solution features, just in a nutshell, we bring the end-to-end S/4HANA test suites, and these end-to-end test suites, what we mean is this cross-module, whether it is sales and distribution, whether it is procure to pay, whether it is record to report, the entire AP/AR process by doing the financial processes. So these test scripts are written at a very detailed level at the business process wise. Accelerated automation, which helps you doing the adoption of the automation faster, plus using the pre-built framework as the scripts. Risk and impact based testing by using one of the important solutions that we have in Arkiti. Fast track testing timelines, it's quite important that how do you really reduce the overall time frame of testing by bringing all these test automation at different phases during the whole testing project lifecycle for an S/4HANA. We are making sure the timelines are also reduced. And just to give a very small example of this timeline reduction, we were able to reduce almost 2 weeks for every rollout for one of our customers recently using the same tool set. So they were able to save 2 weeks of rollout testing effort just because of the whole ecosystem, as well as the automation that we were able to achieve for them. Best practice portal, the fifth one, is important because this helps in making sure the hygiene of the ALM, the transparency, the reporting are all being completely put in, and we have some of the best practice being adopted there. Automated data mining, I think we resonate very well that because this is one of the main burning issues. So we create the data as well as we also mine the data from the system by using one of our tool. Zero touch automation is all about running it in a continuous fashion, also enabling batch mode, unattended automation, and this also integrates with the CI/CD and the DevOps tool chain. And finally, the real-time reporting by using the ALM dashboard with a very focused, custom-built SAP testing dashboard, which focuses on what are the key things that we look at an SAP world and helping the organization as well as the program management level to have the right decision by looking at the current status of what's going in a project level. So these are some of the key solution features we want to talk about. And at the end, we just want to talk about what we have really achieved for the customers. We have been able to take the customer's automation journey to around 80-85% across these using the same tool chain. One of the important things that you will also associate well with the percentage of automation is 85% is quite high, and the reason why it is high is because the tools like Micro Focus UFT, as well as what we are bringing from our own experience as well as accelerators, has been able to achieve the automation across the platform. And when I meant 85%, I meant not only on the SAP S/4HANA systems, but predominantly the other third-party system, which integrates where we are able to automate. There may be some system we may not be able to automate because they are third-party, but there are some systems like some of the web applications, the forms and stuff, we are able to automate completely by using the tool. Reducing the QA critical path, I mentioned about how we are able to save 2 weeks for rollout in most of the customers that we are right now working with. Test inventory, I think this is more of impact and risk-based testing, where we focus our effort, and also the importance of bringing the scientific way of evaluating any changes which goes in the SAP world, and use that to derive your test scope and strategy. And finally, making sure the quality is assured, as well as your go live is quite defect free. So this is what we've been able to achieve for a lot of our customers. And I think maybe we would also like to hear from you, how do you see your journey of an S/4HANA going in, where you are in this journey? So maybe Ron, if you can pull up another poll which can help in understanding where people are in their journey of S/4HANA.
Okay, so everyone, you see a poll there. Where is your company on the journey for SAP S/4HANA? If you can just take a minute to vote, not yet decided, assessment and business case approved, implementation and rollout ongoing, or you're already on S4HANA. We'll give you a second here to cast your vote. And one more second. Looks like they're still coming in, Puneet, so give it a second. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna share the results. Okay, so the majority, 38% are not yet decided, or same percentage, they do have an assessment and business case approved. 7% are already on S4HANA, and about 17% have an implementation and rollout ongoing. So that's some great inputs.
Thanks, Terry, for that. I think, yeah, so quite interesting that almost majority of the people haven't really taken the real road for S4HANA yet, because either they have not decided or they are still doing the assessment of what way to go, whether they want to go for a brown field, blue field, or a green field approach. So quite exciting to know. And I think hope today's solution overview helped you also in understanding what are the possibilities that you can adopt as a part of the testing strategy and the framework, which can help you in your overall S4HANA journey and bring up the benefits around cost savings, the effort savings, as well as the reduction in the timeline, which can help you make your business case quite strong on the S4HANA. I think quite happy to help you on that particular aspect. And Noy, anything that you want to add apart from the solution that we talked about and how we are also helping our customers on the S4HANA together?
No, the one thing, Puneet, I want to actually ask you, of course, when we're talking about testing of SAP application, there are kind of the standard processes, as there are the ones who are custom for each and every client. Can you maybe tell us a tiny bit more about Infosys' approach into the standard flows versus the ones who are customized for each client and their own needs?
Thanks, Noy. I think quite interesting, because this gives a view for all the people on the call today to see that, let's say, a vanilla scenario. What I mean by a vanilla SAP scenario, I'm talking about a business process like procure to pay, where you have a requisition, you create a purchase order, and then you start doing the whole workflow of approvals and then do the invoicing process. Now, and finally the payment. Now, to do this whole process, SAP as a whole ERP package application, it gives the end-to-end functionality in a vanilla version. The way S4HANA works is where people are starting to put the configuration. It could be a model company setup, or the way they want to set up that how their purchase flow looks like. Now, this process, SAP is coming with a standard flow. There could be some customization where you might add a release workflow at two different levels, where you'd want to have a PO approval at two different levels. So this needs to be customized within the system. Currently, what we have done is we have created an automation script or a reusable script which has release process. Now, the only thing that we need to do in such a scenario, currently we will have to repeat that for two different levels with some precondition that we have to do. But the effort of building it completely from scratch, let's say I have to create a release workflow and I have two levels of approval. I already have a release flow automated. The only thing I need to do is put some conditions to make sure that the second level of approval is only done when the first level of approval is done. And that is a customization that we actually do during the course of the project by understanding RISE-IF. And I am pretty sure most of the people on the call also understand what RISE-IF is all about, where these understanding of the gap requirement, those who have already done the assessment, they might already have an analysis that what are the customization or what are the critical local processes they will have to make sure that those changes are incorporated on the current SAP S4HANA vanilla version. It also could be an industry solution where you take it, but in that case, you will have to make sure that these customization, whether it could be a workflow change or it's basically a config field that you're going to add, for those changes, those are the things that typically we will start making the customization on a pre-built assets. But otherwise, the entire flow of purchase order creation, purchase requisition creation, release workflow, doing the invoicing, these are all pretty much done. The other aspect that we are also helping in that is, as I mentioned, that we are finding the queries directly from the system. So in this case, it's all real time. We don't, I think gone are the days where we started to have a regression script. People used to update everything in an Excel sheet and used to have the same data run continuously every year, or maybe let's say 4 times in a year. But now we are actually fetching the data real time, so that we get the right data from the system, which is available in the system. So we avoid all those rework scenario, where if there is a wrong test data picked, or if the test data is obsolete because there were some changes somebody has done in the system. So we are avoiding those kind of also the challenges on the ground which a tester will face or a business will face during the course of the execution. So this is how we are trying to utilize our pre-built assets, and just the customization, we are trying to understand the RISE-IF and make those adjustments on our existing processes.
That's great. That answered my question greatly. And I think that also answers one of the questions that we've got around the test cases, if it's only for standard, transactional, also custom. The answer is for both. Thank you.
Yes.
Ron, do you want to go over the rest of the questions?
Sure. So we've had many excellent questions come through during this presentation. So looks like we had another question here. It looks like it's been answered. It says, what query tool is used to pull data out of S4HANA?
Yeah, so it's basically the SQVI queries, which we can write in the SAP system using the SAP module, and then we create, and this is where we also apply our domain and the SAP knowledge of which tables to search, which fields to connect, so that we can have one particular output coming as a table join across the various SAP tables. So this is where the brain is coming from, an SAP expert or a consultant who has created these pre-built queries using SQVI. So I hope it answers the question.
Okay, thank you. We had another great question. It says, what is meant by risk and impact-based testing in SAP programs? And can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'm pretty sure the risk and impact-based testing is, I'll give a 2 different answer. First is specifically for the risk-based testing, where we also define the risk by working with the business to define what are the critical processes they have, so that we make sure that the prioritization of the business process is taken care of. We achieve the higher percentage during the initial of all the critical processes, and these also form the current base of a regression suite. The reason is not everything that you test as a part of the overall S4HANA program will fall into a regression suite. So this risk-based approach also helps us in arriving what is the final scope that we should consider as a part of regression testing. So there is all the risk of the business process are covered. When I meant by impact-based testing, let's say if I'm making a change in my sales process, what will happen is you will have a different systems, you will have ABAP changes which are going to go through. That will be transported from development to the quality environment using a transport mechanism. And in SAP, you can use a charm request or a transport express or any other utility to transport this. What we do is we analyze those transports and see what are the programs, which are the objects which are impacted because of those programs. And this is where our tool helps us in understanding that these are the objects which are changed. Let's say if there is a change in a sales order creation process, which is a transaction code called as VA01, when we know that the critical change is happening on the entire sales order process, so we will make sure that all those impacted test cases are being tested. So, Ron?
Yeah, so we had another question here. It says, does this solution also support and integrate with DevOps tool stack, including some of the open source tools?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I think Micro Focus also being the leader from almost 2 decades now on the entire testing area and the ADM tools. So it integrates predominantly with every tool chain and the CI/CD pipeline that is there. So we have been able to do it complete end-to-end integration with the CI/CD pipeline for most of the customers. And whether it is because it also provides all the orchestration engine as well as the connectors to connect, whether it is Jenkins or any other, even the framework like Bamboo, Cucumber, and others.
So does your tool also integrate with any of the service management tools like SMAX?
Good question. Maybe Noy, if you can help and answer that.
So it does integrate with some of the systems. Part of the general architecture that we have is an open API. So we can basically integrate with anything out there. For specific tool questions, we're happy to take it offline to understand better the use case. If we have it available, of course, it's easy to implement. If not, then we can drill down into how it can be done with the API. Infosys, of course, is also very, very familiar with the API and what it can achieve and how. But I think I need a tiny bit more context and information about that to be able to answer it on a webinar.
I think we'll have some contact points. So if you can post your queries to the contact points, we will be able to help you answer those questions as well offline. Thank you.
Okay, we had a question. What about C4 applications?
Good question. So the inventory we are talking about, it also covers the entire C4HANA, C4C landscape, absolutely. And all the modules like service management, campaigns, marketing, sales, all. And we have pre-built assets on both testing in the manual world as well as the pre-built assets using the UFT automation scripts. So the solution definitely supports that.
Okay, so also to run a UFT script from ALM, does it require any kind of BPT license, or do you just run it from your Infosys solution tool?
Yeah, so
I can take that. UFT can run without a BPT license. BPT gives a great advantage when designing automated scripts because it allows you to take the componentized approach and flows and all of that. So BPT on its own has a wonderful capability that is something that is actually tailored for the SAP space. With that being said, to run a UFT script, no, you do not need a BPT license and you do not need an ALM license. Furthermore, UFT has a runtime license only, so that can also be used. The wonderful thing about Infosys is they actually do the optimization of what tools they recommend to use for each type of the implementations, and also advise what is the best license consumption required. And of course, it's triggered both from the integration between the various Micro Focus tools as well as the Infosys Accelerator solution tools.
Thank you for that answer. We also have a question here, just a general question about your organization. So how many people are involved whose core competence is considered testing?
That's a good question. So we have pretty much the core competency of the testing is around 26,500 testers widespread globally in different continents. That's the Infosys strength for testing services. But predominantly, if you're looking only from an SAP consulting in the testing portfolio, the SAP consulting team is around 15,000 people, whereas the SAP Center of Excellence, which is focused on only testing, is around 2,500 people.
Towards the top of the hour, so I've got one final question here before we wrap everything up. So a question about test automation. You mentioned you used UFT1 AI. Do you also use BPT packaged apps kit for SAP with UFT for automation?
Yes, we do use. We have a lot of customers who have been using BPT across a lot of customer base, and with this the new AI engine, I think that's a revolution in making sure that how faster we can automate as well as maintain. See, the more important part in automation is not just to automate but also to maintain. The maintenance is an important part, and that's where I think UFT AI has quite a good advantage that we bring in. And Ron, if there are more questions from the people, maybe we can send them an offline response as well.
Yes, we'll do that.
Any further questions, Ron?
No,
maybe
that's the final
one
one.
last question that we can introduce, just one last one. The question is, SAP is also providing RPA tools for automation and a lot of feature. Does Infosys solution provide the same kind of automation or unattended automation?
So absolutely. So I will not say this is an RPA solution, so you do an unattended automation. See, I think everything has a pros and cons. RPA is one aspect to it. I think now you can answer from an RPA point of view, but the unattended automation that I just mentioned here is predominantly on, we have created a utility to make sure that all these kind of challenges which happens across the system are taken care. But from an RPA, maybe now if you can answer that.
Yeah, so just to add a couple of words about that. So Micro Focus has an RPA solution tool. It's basically a combination of UFT as well as operation orchestration that was actually packed in additional to specific features and capabilities required to RPA. Infosys is actually one of our not only implementers, but also a beta tester for RPA. And SAP is one of the main use cases that we have for that. So the answer is both ways. Both Micro Focus has an RPA tool that can be used, and Infosys, of course, is also using it in their delivery. Okay, great. So as Ron said, we're at the top of the hour.
Ron, any further questions?
Yes. No, we'll just respond to any further questions offline.
Perfect, thank you. So I think so. These are the contacts from both Infosys and Micro Focus. So I hope that myself and Noy were able to help you give a complete view of how we are helping customers on the S4HANA journey, and also some of the answers that we have been able to give to you satisfied your thought process and also help you in building the strategy for the S4HANA that you're gonna take very soon. Noy, anything you say?
No, I think Terry just had a closing slide.
Next slide.
Okay,
Yeah, I will show it. Ron, you can just speak to it if you would, please.
Okay, so we have an upcoming Vivid webinar. We'll have the virtual community days, Agile DevOps and testing. That's going to be on Tuesday, December 1st through Friday, December 4th. And so the link is in the slide to register for that. So we'd love to have you there. It's going to be an exciting time and a lot of great content that will be there. Next slide.
Yeah, you can just wrap up and
Okay.
ask them to take the survey.
Okay. So also we want to thank you for your time today. Puneet, we enjoyed this. Was a great seminar. I certainly learned a lot, and I know that our people that joined in today probably did as well. So thank you for this great presentation. So if you want for more information, you can visit infosys.com or microfocus.com, or you can contact Puneet or Sakin Inamdar. And so just also at the end of this, by attending and staying to the end of this webinar, you can also be entered into a drawing for a $100 Amazon gift card. So we look forward to you filling out the survey, and we thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.